Hey guys, welcome to another YouTube video, and this one is a video that I wasn't planning on doing, but since the events of the second test happened just overnight, I just felt like I wanted to talk about the big issues that came out of the second test at Lord's. So first off, apologies for not having any videos out the last week or so. For the last week or so, just last couple of weeks, I should say. Just been flat out with work and it's been tired with work, so I've been wanting to make videos, but I just haven't had the time to do them. So apologies for this, by the way. I don't know, I can't do anything about that, unfortunately. But yeah, so let's get into what I thought about the second test match. I think the second test match, I watched it the last day a bit, and I thought to myself, England were in the box seat most of the way through the final day when Ben Stokes was in. There was a couple of moments from the last day which I'll get into. The two main talking points or the three main talking points of this whole video. So basically, of course, to start off with, pretty much, of course, England won the toss. England won the toss on Wednesday, elected to bowl first on a pitch that was green, to use a saying from the late great Richie Benaud. You probably couldn't pick out the pitch from the rest of the square, really. The pitch as well, it was very green. It was also very overcast. You could see why Ben Stokes elected to bowl first. And you can but it was very different. But it just felt like in that first day, the England bowlers just didn't have it. Just were flat at all throughout day one. It was just flat throughout the most of day one. Of course, Smith got his 33rd century, which I think either equals or overtakes Steve Waugh, I believe. I think got his 32nd or 33rd hundred as well. Warner, he looked ominous. He looked ominous from the word go, as well. The only shining light, really, for England on that first day, in my opinion, was Ashes debutant Josh Tongue. I think was my pick. He was the only one that really, of course, he got rid of both Khawaja and Warner out as well. But yeah, then Smith got out there, of course, got his 100, of course, and then of course the second day was a lot better from England, and they eventually bowled them out for about 200 or so. I think it was about 400 or so. I think it was about 415, 420, I believe it was. I think it was. Then the England innings came in. It didn't look good for the Aussies to start off with, of course. A bit inaccurate bowling, of course, and then the unfortunate injury to the great one, Nathan Lyon, which was confirmed today as I record this. It was confirmed today that he is going to be out for the remainder of the series with that torn calf. With that torn calf, I don't know what does it mean in terms of the summer. I don't know. He might. I may be wrong. Maybe he's going to be fine for the summer. But in terms of this actual series, his series is over. So yeah, and then obviously then obviously, of course, the Aussies came back into it. They bowled them out. I think that they had an advantage. I think it was about 90 or so runs, I can remember. 90 or so runs. Yeah, and you could tell that the Aussies were very approached their second innings differently to the way the first. Obviously, because they're batting first on a green surface and overcast conditions, but they seem to be a lot more careful, and it pretty much almost played into England's hands a little bit. Especially when they started, all this short pitch bowling started to come into it. And they used that very well. Khawaja was really the shining light there. I mean, Carey and Green did some glimpses, but really it was Khawaja again, like he did at Edgbaston. It was the main man for Australia. And speaking of Nathan Lyon, it was great to see. That they went out there to get more runs. He in that last wicket partnership, I believe it was with Hazelwood, I think, or Cummins. I think or Cummins, one of the two. That went on 15 runs, which was very important for later on. So eventually we got bowled out, and we set England the target of 371, which when Macca thought, they've had for the last 12 months, they've had a history of chasing down big targets in Test matches. Is England in the last 12 months, ever since Brendan McCullum has been in charge as England coach. So I thought to myself, this is a bit of a worry. And also, lingering in the background is the nightmares of Headingley in 2019, where we had them on the ropes for most of that, for about 99% of that Test match, until Ben Stokes took it away from us. Which ultimately cost us. That game ultimately cost us a chance to win our first Ashes series in England for the first time in 18 years. So hopefully, maybe fingers crossed, we do it this year, possibly. But then so we set them 371 to win. We started like a flipping house on fire. And when we say we, I say Mitchell Starc started like a house on fire. Getting rid of Crawley cheaply, and then bowled an absolute crackerjack of a delivery to Ollie Pope, ripping out his middle stump, which was absolute beauty. Swung in late, absolute beautiful length. I said swung late. It swung in late, but swung in perfectly, and just ripped out his middle stump. The skipper decided, I'm going to join you too, Starkey, and got rid of Joe Root. Because I think the ball before he got out, he did edge it, but unfortunately it was between the slip. I think it was between slip and gully, I believe. And then he edged one straight through to Carey. And then a couple of deliveries later to Harry Brook, after he'd hit him before. Or driven him down the ground for 4, went straight through him, and that was the old saying. There's an old saying for all kids that have played the game of cricket. You've always been taught two things. Especially when I was playing, one, ball falling straight, and 2, hit the top of off. And he definitely hit the top of off. It was he couldn't get it. Paddy couldn't get more top of off than that. Couldn't get more top of off, really. And they were on the ropes. I think they were like 45 for 4, I believe it was, or 50 odd for 4. And then of course the hero, the captain, the man on the moment. Ben Stokes came out with Ben Duckett, and really settled in. And then we get to the first real talking point of this match, and that was the Stark catch or non-catch. So pretty much Duckett tries to probably either tries to get a late cut through to third man, or tried to hit it over the top of tries to hit over the top of the keeper. Instead, I don't know where the bat it hit, but pretty much it went straight to fine leg where Stark was, and he grabbed it and took the catch. But then basically they went upstairs, and it was seen that that after he'd taken the catch, the ball had taken a bit of the ground, and that was enough for them to overrule the catch and rule it not out. Which Glenn McGrath was absolutely furious over. To be honest, I don't blame him, to be honest. But you guys don't care about other people's opinions. You're here for mine. So I've looked at the catch a couple of times since the test match is finished, and I think for me, I'm stuck in two halves here. One is surely Stark couldn't have any other option. Because you could tell, because basically the reason being that he's planted his hand on the ground is because to basically, if his hand wasn't there and he didn't plant his hand on the ground, he probably would be landing on his left shoulder, and that would be not good for us, probably. So he has to use his right arm, in this case, his left hand. Unfortunately, the ball's in his right hand, to basically rebalance himself and save himself from injury. That is from what I can see. Because you have to protect yourself from injury when you're in those situations where you're doing a catch like that, where it's not exactly a diving catch, but exactly a catch where you throw yourself off balance a little bit, and you need to use your hands to get yourself balanced back up again. Unfortunately, Stark used his right hand. As I said, the ball was in there, and he on the ground, and they ruled it not out. So I get why people like Glenn McGrath are furious about that, because as we get to the next bit about the Bairstow situation, maybe after the catch was taken, it was still, the ball was probably still in play. The ball was probably still, it was probably maybe still in play or not in play when he takes the catch. We don't know the ruling about. I don't know the ruling about that. If the catch is taken, doesn't matter what happens afterwards when he basically plants the ball on the ground for rebalancing and that. I don't think there's any ruling about that. I think I might have to check that. But yeah, but then on the other side of things. From the other side of things, it is in the rules. You have to not, the ball can't be on the ground when you catch it. It even as you've completed the catch, it needs to be off the ground, and in this case, it wasn't. So yeah, that's why I'm a bit half and half, really. In basically, he has completed the catch, and basically has used his hand to rebalance himself. Because probably, most likely, I've just thought of this now. If not, he probably would have fallen over and maybe slid onto the road, but it would have been a 6. A 6, and it would have been a whole lot worse than that. So pretty much, yeah. So yeah. And then on the other side of things, as I said, it is in the rules. You can't have the ball on the ground at any time. So yeah. So that was pretty much the last bit of news surrounding day 4. Leading to day 5, Duckett, of course, and Stokes continued on with their partnership until he was caught behind by Alex Carey. And then Johnny Bairstow came out, and then you had, and this started about 2 or 3 balls before this, where there was a lot of the commentators were noticing a bit of a trend with Bairstow that every time he missed the ball, he would wander out of his crease. And also, as it was pointed out, I believe, by Ricky Ponting, I believe, on commentary, I believe, he doesn't look at the keeper as well. So he doesn't look at the keeper, so basically he does this, and basically wanders out of the crease and does not look at the keeper. Unfortunately, 3 balls later, unfortunately, next ball, he does this again. Unfortunately, Carey underarms it, hits the stumps, and the third umpire has no choice. He has to give it out because he's out of his crease. My opinion on that is quite simply, he's allowed to do it. It's in the rules. I don't know, I don't know why the English fans and players carried on like a pork chop over this. I don't know why. It's in the rules, and there was nothing that they did. There was nothing that Carey did that was basically, as they said, cheating. There was nothing towards it. He basically, what I would love to see come out is a side-by-side side angle. One side, Carey, that is the frontal shot, what you see in the broadcast of Carey underarming at the stumps, and the other side sees from the side on view as Bairstow wanders out of his crease at the time of the dismissal, and see if because some people say, he delayed himself and waited till he get out of his crease. That's not him cheating. That's him being smart about it, because he's seen it, doing it 2 times over in that same over. You can't say that Alex Carey's cheating. You can't say that. And that's why I said England fans and players, especially Stuart Broad, by the way, carrying on like a pork chop, and where it should not have been necessary. And it led to pretty much, and that's how usually Lords is very staid and very quiet, but this time was hostile. It was like you see, you normally see this at Edgbaston and all these English cricket grounds, not at Lords. So that's how riled up this England crowd was over that dismissal. Let's just say Bairstow will probably think twice in the next test at Headingley about doing that. Let's just put it that way. And that's for and back on the thing about Carey being smart about it. Nasser Hussain post match said that he was switched on. He was the only one on that cricket field who was switched on. He saw Bairstow wander out of his crease 2 or 3 times before the dismissal. He was switched on. That's what you teach young cricketers. You teach young cricketers. Doesn't matter if they're batters, bowlers, or keepers. Or any genders, men or women, or young boys and young girls. They teach you to switch on because the odd occasion that sort of thing could happen, where pretty much the batsman or the batter can just wander out of their crease, and you run them out. So pretty much, yeah. So foregone conclusion. Mine is pretty much he had the right to do it, and the England fans and players carried on like absolute pork chops, to be honest, as it was said on commentary. Whatever happened, this wasn't. An England steward board came out. Ben Stokes decided, you know what? I'm going to take things into my own hands and basically try and do a carbon copy of Headingley 2019 and start smashing things out of the park. He got which at some point when they got to about 70 runs to win, I thought, oh god, I thought to myself during watching that, I thought the only way we're going to win this test match is Stokes runs himself out. That's because he's not mishitting a ball. He at the time he wasn't mishitting the ball, and it wasn't helped at all by. I still don't know what Pat Cummins was doing. Like, in terms of his captaincy, in terms of his tactics. I was screaming, I was like almost screaming at the TV saying, bowl a freaking full ball on his freaking feet, for God's sake. Like, what were they doing? Obviously, like Stuart Broad, obviously he's going to set up for obviously bowling the short ball, and they were still keeping on bowling short balls. No wonder why Stokes was hitting him over the fence 10, 20 rows back in the stands, because they were keeping on bowling short to him. And as I said, I thought the only way the only way we could win this test is either we restrict Stokes and just bowl Stokes, Anderson, Robertson, and Tongue out, or two, we run Stokes out, or the third one, we just let it happen like Headingley 2019 and let England be back in the series, and we draw 1-1. That was until because I had to go to work, obviously, this is today as I'm recording this, but at the time, I had to go to work the next day. So I switched the TV off. This was at midnight. And I tried to go to sleep, but I just couldn't. For some reason, I just couldn't go to sleep because I wanted. So I just out of curiosity, I turned on my phone, went onto the Cricket Live app and we were 7 down. And I checked and I was like, hang on, we've lost a wicket here. And then I saw it Stokes, it was out. And I'm like, what on earth? Like what on earth? What on earth? The minutes after I've switched on my TV for the night, Stokes gets out, and I've seen from the replay, the one time he does miss-hit a ball, he hits it straight up in the air and catches it. Carey catches it, and at that point, probably at one point, the win predictor on the Sky Sports broadcast, because here in Australia we got it on Channel 9, it had the win predictor and it said England with 54%. And it was the first time really that they were, in terms of the win predictor, they were in front of the game. Then that basically dramatically changed because Robertson came out. He didn't last long. He didn't last long. Broad didn't last long after that either. So we're 9 down. So Anderson and Tongue. So pretty much the end is near, pretty much. Australia on the brink of 2-0. And that last wicket partnership, it frustrated the crap out of me. absolutely frustrated the crap out of me. We could have straight up just bowl one of Tongue or Anderson out with a Yorker, game over, we could be celebrating, whoop-de-doo, and that. We didn't. We just kept on bowling short balls. Like, I know these are flat freaking pitches. You need to pitch it up. That's the only way you're going to get a wicket. It's the only way because obviously these Englishmen are probably going to be set up for the short. Probably have their stance set up for the short ball anyways. So what's the point? Just bowl a couple of full ones. You can still bowl short balls, but not 5 times every over, or every single ball, because it's ridiculous, really. And then of course the one full ball that was given from Starkey, which was the hammer blow, smacks down Josh Tongue's off stump. Game over. We win by 47 runs, and we claim a 2-0 lead in the series. And then it wasn't until afterwards where during the lunch break, there was a bit of a situation happened in the weight room, where the players usually go in for after a session and go out for a session for a day's play. There was a bit of kerfuffle really between the Aussies and some of the MCC members, which was reported, which Cricket Australia did report that. Apparently there was no people evicted, but it was revealed today that there was I think 2 or 3 of them got suspended by the MCC members. That got suspended for their inappropriate behaviour to the Aussies. I remember I watched an interview that that Usman Khawaja did on Channel 9 and after the match, and he said it was pretty disappointing in what they said, and it was pretty. He sounded like he was pretty emotional too, the way that whole thing was handled. So 2-0. So the next test match is at Headingley. We're not even 24 hours after the second test match has ended, and England have already announced their extended squad for the remainder of the series. So surely now, this has been a massive talking point, this one. Should Mark Wood come into the side? Should he not? Foregone conclusion for me, 110% he should play. He should play in this test match. He should, because in my opinion, deep down, I don't know how many levers do the England hierarchy left to pull, to be honest. The last lever left to pull is probably is Mark Wood. He's the only one. That's the only lever they've pulled left. If they don't, then then they will be known forever in why they'll be asking themselves forever, why didn't we choose Mark Wood for the third test match at Headingley after. Obviously, because obviously I think it's either he plays his test match or he doesn't play in the series at all. Because what if he doesn't get selected? Australia win the third test match, therefore they retain the Ashes, and pretty much what's the point in playing him? Because it's probably going to be two dead rubbers. I know you have to play him, of course, in terms for the World Test Championship. But you can't. But it's the Ashes. It's the Ashes here. So pretty much, yeah. So I think pretty much. I think pretty much. I think England. I don't think they should change their approach with this whole baseball thing. I don't think they because this is why the fans are turning up to test matches day after day. It's the reason why, because of this whole baseball thing. I remember Nasser Hussain said that this could be a wake up call for them. I believe it is. And then I remember watching on YouTube. Just probably about an hour or so ago, before I hit record on this video, I watched the post match analysis or talk that Sky Sports had after today's play of the 5th Test match, where Andrew Strauss, KP, and Nasser Hussain were talking, and they were saying about the form that England had over the last 12 months. Well, my response to that is that their form in the last 12 months does not matter. It's the Ashes we're talking about. It's the Ashes. Whatever's happened to England in the last 12 months, ever since Baz McCullum has come in as coach, that doesn't matter now. This is the Ashes. This is the biggest rivalry in world cricket. And they need to, as I said, they need to be smarter. Actually, no, both teams need to be smarter about this, because the tactics that the Australian the fast bowlers did in employing their short pitch with their short pitch deliveries, that needs to change, because they used the short ball far too often, especially when Stokes was out there hammering 4s and 6s all over the park, and then obviously the last wicket partnership where pretty much Tongue and Anderson, to be honest, were out there for too long for my liking, to be honest. Yeah. So. As I said, I think England need to come out, I believe, smart about this. And not only just in their batting, but also their bowling as well. Like, for me, like, if Mark Wood does get selected, I would say because at Headingley, there is an end where it goes downhill. If I was Ben Stokes and if I was bowling first, I would say to Mark Wood, you are going to be bowling down this end, and you are going to be staying there for the remainder of this Test match, because you are going to be and possibly maybe bowl like Bob Willis type of spells. Remember in that famous Test match at Headingley in 1981, where he took 8 for 43, when Australia at one stage were 4 for 120, trying to chase down 160 odd, and basically Willis will his way to win. I'm not saying that he's gonna that Wood gets selected, comes down and gets 8 for it at Headingley. I'm not saying that. But he's the man. I think for me, Mark Wood is the man. What I'm saying here is, I think he's the man that decides where these Ashes are going to go. I think for me, if he doesn't get selected for Headingley, there is a chance, because even though, yes, Josh Tongue, he did play a good played a test match. Played a good test here at Lords. He was good, but I don't see him bowling 90-mile-an-hour deliveries often. I just don't see that. You have to have Mark Wood is the only bowler in this squad right now that is the only man in this squad right now that can basically that could bowl 90 mile an hour deliveries consistently. He's the only one, or around 90 miles an hour, which is something that England desperately needs. Is that aggressor down one end, which allows for bowlers like Broad and Robertson to strike. That's what and they haven't had that. So pretty much, and of course, both teams' short pitch delivery tactics are not good. I mean, Australia is different, obviously, with them using it far too often. And to be honest here, England, Robinson, Broad, and Anderson, their short pitch deliveries are basically 128 k an hour, 128, 129, 130 k an hour pies, and that's me being honest here. Or actually no, it's actually fact, pretty much. So pretty much, yeah. So at this point, it's definitely advantage Australia, but I believe if England do, I think if they want to get back in this series and avoid possibly Australia winning a series in England for the first time in 22 years, then I think Mark Wood is the real X factor. He needs to be brought in. Because, as I said, I'm worried that England now have already pulled most of their levers. They've already pulled most of their levers in their first two matches, and only got one left, which is Mark Wood. And if that doesn't work, then where else do they go from here? So that is pretty much it for this video, really. So like this video, share this to anybody who is an Australian cricket fan, or an England cricket fan, or a general Ashes cricket fan. Comment down below. Did you agree? Do you agree with my opinions? Do you disagree with them? Disagree with them? I want to hear your thoughts about what I've just said. Did you think that do you think it was the right thing to do for Carey to run Bairstow out? Do you think Stark catch should have been awarded? I'd love to hear your thoughts about those things down below in the comments. And one last thing, somewhere down there, click on the big red button which is labeled subscribe. But until next time, guys, I'll see you guys later, and wherever you may be, may the sun or the moon shine on you. Aussies 2-0. One win away. One win. Don't mess this up, Aussies.